everyone, and welcome to Module 6. This week we are focusing on computers in the medical office, managing the medical record, and telephone communications. So with that being said, that means that we are focusing on 3 chapters. That's Chapter 7, Chapter 12, and Chapter 13. And I'm going to review these in a little bit of an odd order. I'm going to start with Chapter 12, then do 7, then 13. So bear with me as we go through these here, guys. So Chapter 12 is dealing with computers in the medical office. Computers play such an important role in the medical office, everything from diagnosing patients, monitoring your patients, and reporting on the patient's progress. Computers help to enhance the quality of care through the data collection, and it helps to eliminate duplicate work or even errors that can happen within the medical field. Computers are also valuable because they help to eliminate some more time-consuming tasks that we do on a daily basis, things such as scheduling appointments for patients, charting with our patients, billing for procedures and visits, and insurance processing. Now, in order for us as medical assistants to be successful in both the clinical and administrative areas in the medical field, we need to be familiar with computers, their parts, and how they are used. So we're going to spend some time talking about those. So let's start by talking about some of the basics. Some of you may be very tech savvy, and that's awesome. But there are some of you, like me, who are not super tech savvy. So computers are made up of 3 different components. They're made up of hardware, software, and storage or security measures. Now we're going to talk about each of those a little bit more in depth so you get a better understanding of them. And we're going to start with talking about hardware. Now hardware refers to what we call the CPU, or the Central Processing Unit. This is essentially the traffic controller for all of the computer activities. So another way to think about this is the CPU is the brain of every computer. The hardware consists of input devices such as keyboards, mouses, touchscreens, microphones, scanners, or cameras. And it also consists of output devices, things such as monitors or keyboards. Monitors or printers, things that put something out. Software, on the other hand, is essentially the instruction manual for which the computer does its functions. And typically it uses what we call an operating system. So, for example, the operating system helps the computer to run, so things such as iOS, Windows, or Mac OS. All of the things that help your computer to run. Computers can also have application software. The most common types of application software are called general purpose. And what those are things such as Microsoft Office, where you have Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Access, Microsoft PowerPoint like I'm using here, and Microsoft Publisher. For the storage and security, typically computers have a lot of private information on them, so we have to make sure that we're keeping them safe. With that, computers need to have regular maintenance, password changes, antivirus protections, and we have to be HIPAA compliant. So as a medical assistant, it is extremely important that you understand that other patients should not be able to see computerized records. For HIPAA, we have to make sure that we're following what we call the security rule. This provides national security for protecting electronic protected health information, or EPHI. Some of the ways that we can safeguard our computers are administrative safeguards, things such as designating a privacy officer, conducting training about protecting PHI, having backup or recovery time and plans in place in case of emergencies. Every computer should be shut down and backed up every single night. Physical safeguards that we can use are things that are helping us to prevent unauthorized person from physically accessing the data. Things such as passwords and changing those passwords every 60 to 90 days. And making sure that the passwords aren't something easy. Making it a combination of random numbers is much easier than saying maybe your date of birth or your last name. And finally, technical safeguards. These are electronic protections that are used to prevent unauthorized access of the network. Things such as antivirusware or putting up firewalls, making sure that the Wi-Fi maybe has a password on it, so you have to gain access before you can even use the Wi-Fi. All right, so now we are going to switch over to Chapter 7. And Chapter 7 is dealing with telephone etiquette. So much like computers that we learned about just a few minutes ago, telephones are one of the most vital tools used within the medical field. The key within the office is to ensure that every phone encounter is not only courteous, but also efficient, accurate, and professional. Attention to detail is required when you're answering a phone, taking a message, or even taking a refill request. The fundamental rule is to remember that when answering a phone in the medical office, it's not like you're answering it at home. You don't answer the phone and go, "Hey girl, what's up?" No, you have to be a lot more professional than that. And typically, you have a script to follow. And that script will have 5 key items to keep in mind. First, you want to always smile. If you smile like the patient is right in front of you on the phone, they can hear that and they know it's a pleasant experience. 2 is you want to have a good greeting. So you want to answer the phone quickly, usually within the first 3 rings. And your greeting should always include the name of the office or physician, your name, and the caller, and asking the caller how you can help them. So for example, if I was working in the field, I would answer my phone and say, "Good morning, this is Carissa, how can I help you?" Or even further than that, going, "Thank you for calling OSF Medical Group, this is Corey, how can I help you?" I've hit all of those things and they know that I'm there for them. Number 3 is your speech. So you need to make sure that you're using clarity when you're talking. Make sure that you can be understood. Use enunciation. And watch the pitch in your voice. Changes in pitch can be very scary for patients, especially if they feel as though you're yelling at them. Number 4 is you always want to identify the caller. So making sure that you identify them. Ask them for their last name and their date of birth. Don't ask them, "Are you Mrs. Smith?" or "Is your birthday 8/20/92?" And number 5 is listen. Listening is so crucial to managing telephone calls. Callers don't like to have to repeat themselves, so always make sure that you are listening to what they're saying, not just trying to complete that phone call. There's a lot more to Chapter 7, but I think I'm going to leave that for you all to read and to use within your lab classes this week. Again, here are the 5 rules. I got overexcited and gave them to you without even giving you the slide for that. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so Chapter 13 is dealing with managing paper medical records, and probably more often than not, you're not going to be working with these, but it's still important to know how to manage the chart, whether it's electronic or paper. A medical record contains all the written documents that relate to a patient's healthcare. Regardless of whether it's paper or electronic, you have to make sure that you're keeping it safe. It is a legal document. It's a permanent record and a tool that is used by all of us in the medical staff to communicate within our offices or other offices. So that means when you are charting, you're using black ink only. and you're always documenting. If you don't document, it didn't happen. Because the medical record is a legal document, everything that is done during that patient's visit, over the phone, or discussed during an email correspondence must be documented in the chart. If it wasn't documented, it wasn't done. That's the motto. So when you are writing in a patient's chart and you make an error, there are specific ways that you have to correct that error. But don't worry, errors are human. We've all done it. We will all do it. It's part of life. The first thing you want to make sure is that when you make an error, you never erase that error or use whiteout. Okay? You simply draw one line through the error, initial the error, and you put the word either error above it, or you write the correct statement. Okay. Now, if you find an error in someone's chart, I want you to bring it to the person who made it, but do it in a professional manner. Go in a private area, show them the error and help them correct it. Don't pull them out of the middle of a room or in front of a patient and start telling them they made a mistake. That's not a professional way to handle things. All right, and lastly, it's very important to understand that the medical record is actually owned by the patient, but the facility that created that information owns the physical or electronic record. Patients have the right to view their medical records at any time, and if they want to, always, whenever they want, but they always have to be present or have a staff member present. Now, because the patient owns the medical record, we need their permission in order to release any information. This is why we have patients sign that notice of privacy practices when they're a new patient and then every year after that. This form pretty much gives the patient consent to send their medical records to any sort of office, either a specialty, but it also uses this information to send to insurance companies to bill for the procedure or visit that day. All right, so that's where I'm going to stop for the video. Again, please make sure that you're reading Chapter 7, Chapter 12, and Chapter 13 on your own. They're full of great information. But I want to talk about your assignments for Module 6. First and foremost, we are back to doing discussion boards. I know, guys, I'm sorry. 1 week off was great, but we're going to go back into it now. You have one discussion post this week, which is about meaningful use and what is it. Your initial discussion post will be due no later than midnight on Tuesday, February 7th. And you need to reply to at least one classmate no later than Saturday, February 11th by midnight. Again, remember that responses to the instructor do not count for your grade. You have your TDAP, VIS summary, and case study. This will be due Sunday, February 12th by midnight. Please make sure that you're doing both sections and that you submit them under one Dropbox, not two. And finally, you have a quiz this week. Your quiz is over the chapters assigned this week, so Chapter 7, Chapter 12, and Chapter 13. This will be due no later than Sunday, February 12th by midnight. It is 25 multiple choice or true-false questions, and you will have a 30-minute time limit. All right, guys, that is all I have for you. Please make sure if you have any questions, comments, or concerns that you email me right away, and I will help address those as soon as I can. Otherwise, have a wonderful Module 6, and I'll see you again in Week 7. Bye, guys.